My parents said, "You're just a waitress," until I paid the bill for the whole restaurant. I was the disappointment, the black sheep, the forgotten name in every family Christmas card. My parents had 2 children. My brother, the future lawyer, and me, the just a waitress. That's not what I called myself, of course. But it's what they whispered behind my back, and sometimes to my face. I didn't always plan to end up in food service. I wanted to study interior design, even got into a decent program. But when the financial aid didn't come through, I asked my parents for help. My mom looked at me like I'd just asked her for a kidney. My dad? He was even more direct. "You don't need college to take orders and carry plates," he said. "You're pretty. Smile and get better tips." That night, I cried myself to sleep with a bottle of cheap wine and a 20 from my tips, stuck to my fridge with a believe magnet. But this isn't a sob story. This is a revenge story. And I swear, the ending is chef's kiss. But let me back up. I worked at a high-end restaurant in the city, the kind where people don't look at the prices, and we're not allowed to say no. We say, "Let me check with the kitchen," and then we pray someone back there can make it happen. I wasn't just any waitress. I was that waitress, the one who remembers your drink order before you sit down, the one who gets the regulars to tip 30% even when their wife is glaring at them. I hustled. Hard. I picked up doubles. I learned wine pairings. I took a course in food allergens just to boost my value, and I never told my parents a thing. Why would I? They made it clear years ago that nothing I did mattered unless it came with a degree. My brother Jake was the family trophy. He went to Yale. He wore blazers in July. He talked like he was auditioning for a legal drama. He also flunked out after 2 years and never told anyone. But I knew. You see, Jake called me drunk one night while I was rolling silverware at 1 a.m., said he couldn't handle the pressure, said he was going to figure it out. Then he ghosted campus like a coward and moved into my parents' basement to study for the bar. He's been studying for 3 years now. My parents still brag about him at every holiday dinner. "You should be more like your brother," Mom says, serving Jake a second helping of mashed potatoes while I scrub gravy stains off my thrift store jeans. Now I know what you're thinking. Why not just cut them off? I tried. God, I tried. But blood is sticky. And when you grow up trying to earn love from people who ration it out like it's some luxury item, you keep hoping that one day you'll finally be enough. That hope is a disease. It keeps you coming back to the table even when you know the plate is empty. Then came the birthday dinner. My dad's 60th. Big deal. Mom made a reservation at the Brixton, the trendiest restaurant in town. A place with gold menus and a $45 valet fee. I knew the head chef. Hell, I trained half their staff before they poached them from us. Mom called me 2 weeks before. "You'll come, right?" she said, like I was a distant cousin. "Wear something nice. Everyone will be there." I almost said no. Almost. But something inside me sparked. Maybe it was ego. Maybe it was spite. Maybe I just wanted to see how invisible I could be in a room, full of people who shared my DNA. So I said yes. The night came. I wore a sleek black jumpsuit and heels that hurt like hell. I did my hair, put on red lipstick. I looked good. Better than any just a waitress had the right to. I arrived a few minutes late on purpose. Let the room settle before I walked in. The table was full. My parents, Jake, 3 uncles, 2 aunts, a cousin who sells essential oils like it's a religion. No one stood up. No one smiled. My mom waved vaguely, then turned back to talking about Jake's law career. I sat. I listened. I let them talk over me for an hour. Jake pontificated about legal loopholes he clearly Googled 10 minutes before. My dad told a story about fixing the sink like it was brain surgery. Finally, the waiter came by. Nice kid, nervous, new to fine dining. I gave him a wink. He nodded, grateful. When he walked away, my mother leaned in, her voice syrupy sweet. "You know, honey," she said, "you could be working in a place like this if you'd applied yourself." I laughed. Loud, startled everyone. My dad looked, annoyed. "What's funny?" I wiped my eyes, still chuckling. "Nothing. Just déjà vu." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Are you still slinging hash at that diner on 5th? "I work at LaRue," I said, sipping my water. "Not a diner, a 5-star establishment." Mom smiled like I was a toddler pretending to be a princess. "Well, good for you. You've always had personality." I excused myself to the restroom before I flipped the table. In the hallway, I took a breath. Checked my phone. 3 new Venmo requests from coworkers covering my shift. 2 missed calls from a food critic I'd been consulting on the side. And 1 message from the general manager at the Brixton. "Hey, saw you made a reservation for 10 under Martin Family. Surprise, surprise. Let me know if you want us to comp anything. Also, we're out of the truffle risotto." I smirked. Messaged back. "Don't comp it. I'm paying full price. Bring out the reserve wine. Make it theatrical." I returned to the table, cool as steel. Dinner dragged. More stories about Jake's fake legal work. More microaggressions from my mom. I waited. Then came the bill. The waiter approached with reverence, holding it like it was a sacred text. He placed it in front of my father, who reached for his wallet. Before he could open it, I spoke. "Actually," I said, "I've got it." The table went silent. Like movie scene silent. You could hear the candle flicker. My dad laughed. "Amanda, this is the Brixton. The bill's probably $500. I pulled out my black Amex, the one my parents didn't know I had. The one tied to the consulting business I ran on the side for 3 different Michelin restaurants. I handed it to the waiter. His eyes widened. He nodded and scurried off. Jake leaned back. "You sure you can afford this?" I didn't answer. Just smiled. 10 minutes later, the manager came out personally. Presented my card on a silver tray. Thanked me loudly for gracing them with your presence. Said dessert was on the house. The whole dining room stared. My mom looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. My dad tried to act cool, but he was fidgeting. "Jake?" Jake looked terrified, like he realized for the first time that maybe his little sister wasn't so little anymore. When we got up to leave, I hugged my mom tightly. She stiffened. I whispered in her ear, "Next time you say I'm just a waitress, make sure the waitress isn't paying your bill." And then I walked out, heels clicking, back straight, blood boiling. But this was only the beginning, because after that night, everything changed, and not in the way they expected. See, I had a plan. One that would make that dinner look like a cheap appetizer. Let's just say, if they thought humiliation over steak was bad, they had no idea what was coming next. You'd think the dinner stunt would have earned me a little respect. Maybe a phone call, a "Hey, Amanda, we had no idea you were doing so well," or even a half-hearted apology wrapped in guilt and Chardonnay. Nope. What I got was a group text from my mom. A blurry photo from the dinner, captioned, "Family is everything. So proud of our Jake. Jake, always Jake." If the Titanic had gone down with Jake on it, my mother would have complimented how well he drowned. I laughed, deleted the message. Then I got to work. Because here's the thing. That dinner? That was dessert. Sweet. Satisfying. But now it was time for the main course, and revenge is best served strategically. First, a little context. While my parents were pretending I was waiting tables in some greasy spoon, I'd been quietly building something. It started when one of my regulars, a sharp-tongued restaurant critic with a salt and pepper mustache and a Rolex that could blind you, Asked me if I'd ever considered consulting. I laughed, told him I didn't have a degree. He shrugged. Neither do half the people running Michelin-star kitchens, so I started small. Menu consulting, customer service overhauls, training servers how to upsell without sounding like robots. And I was good, like booked 2 months in advance good. Turns out, there's power in knowing how to make people feel seen while they're spending $200 on duck confit. I had clients, I had capital, and, most dangerously, I had motivation. Because I knew something my family didn't. A secret so delicious it deserved a garnish. My parents were in trouble. Financial trouble. Their small business, a home decor shop in the suburbs, was bleeding money. They were behind on taxes. Maxed out 2 credit cards. And Jake? Well, Jake's studying for the bar gig wasn't exactly bringing in income. I only knew because one of my side clients was a financial planner who happened to be reviewing their books. She saw the last name, asked if we were related. I said no. Then I asked to see everything, and what I saw was opportunity, the kind that makes petty look poetic. Here was the plan. Step 1. Make them want something from me. Step 2. Give them a taste. Step 3. Slam the door so hard it echoes. It started with a whisper. I knew my mom's best friend, Carol, had a daughter who followed me on Instagram. I made sure to post just enough. A shot of my laptop next to a glass of champagne. A behind the scenes. Reel at a new restaurant opening. A stack of contracts with blurred names and the caption, "Another week, another empire." It worked. 2 weeks later, my mom called me. Unprompted, she started with the classic. "Hi, honey. How's the waitressing?" I smiled. "Oh, I left that job. I run a consulting firm now, specializing in restaurant branding and turnaround strategies." Silence. Then, "Oh, well, that's nice." I waited. And like clockwork. "Your father and I were just saying we might need some help with the store. Business has been a little slow." There it was, the first taste of desperation. I told her I was busy, slammed with clients, but maybe I could pencil them in. She sounded relieved, grateful even. I hung up and poured myself a drink. Phase 1. Complete. Over the next few weeks, I played the long game. Had my assistant, yes, I have an assistant, send them a formal intake packet, made. Them fill out a business goals worksheet, ask them to rate their customer engagement strategy on a scale from non-existent to delusional. They chose moderately effective. Cute. Then I scheduled a video call. Jake joined, of course, wearing a suit jacket over pajama pants, trying to look like the CEO of his own life. I gave them my best consultant voice. Warm, polished, expensive. I told them what was wrong with their brand, their marketing, their product placement. My dad got defensive. My mom looked lost. Jake interrupted, twice to ask if we should leverage TikTok. I smiled, told them I'd think about taking them on, if they could pay my standard rate. $3,000 a week, plus performance bonuses. My mom's face turned to stone. "We're family," she said. "And I was just a waitress," I replied. She hung up. I thought that was the end of it. But a week later, I got a check in the mail, signed by my father, for the full amount. No note, just the check. And just like that, they were mine. For 3 months, I made them jump through hoops. I rebranded their shop from Martin's Treasures to the Nest Studio, gave them a sleek new logo, redesigned the layout, updated the inventory system. I watched my mom struggle to learn Instagram, watched my dad have a meltdown because I replaced his dusty cash register with an iPad. Jake handled marketing, which meant he reposted memes and claimed they were engagement strategies. Through it all, I smiled, nodded, build them weekly. But I was saving the final blow. Because during that time, I'd also been working on a little acquisition. You see, the shop's lease was up for renewal, and the landlord was tired of their late payments. So I made him an offer, bought the building, in full, and waited. On the day of our final meeting, I invited them to dinner. Same place, the Brixton, same table, same waiter, déjà vu. This time they were early, all smiles. My mom wore pearls. My dad shaved. Jake brought a binder. "I think we've really turned a corner," he said. I nodded. Agreed. We ate, we drank, and when the dessert came, I pulled out a folder. Inside was the termination letter. "Effective immediately," I said. "I'm ending our contract." My mom blinked. "But why? The store's doing better than ever." "Exactly," I said. "I've done my job, and now I'm also raising the rent." My dad frowned. "You can't do that." "I can. I own the building now." Jake opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "But we're family." I stood up, looked them all in the eye. "You're right. Which is why I gave you the friends and family rate before evicting you." Gasps. Stares. The waiter approached with the bill. I paid it, of course, then handed my mother a final gift. A framed photo of the receipt from the first dinner. "Put this in the new shop," I said. "A reminder of the time you thought I'd never be more than a waitress." Then I walked out. Again. But this time, I didn't look back. Because the best revenge isn't just success. It's letting the people who underestimated you realize they raised the very storm they're now drowning in. They didn't go quietly. Of course they didn't. If there's one thing my parents hate more than being wrong, it's being outsmarted by the daughter they spent a lifetime dismissing. Within 48 hours of receiving the eviction notice, my mother had posted a passive-aggressive tirade on Facebook, something about entitled children and how the family business used to mean something. It got 8 likes, all from women with MLM pyramid schemes and high blood pressure. Jake naturally made a TikTok, a shaky, shirtless rant in his childhood bedroom about toxic siblings and how money ruins everything. The comments roasted him. Someone even screen recorded the part where he accidentally called me boss lady. I downloaded it, saved it in a folder called Poetic Justice. But this wasn't about social media. This was about legacy. And mine was just getting started. Let's rewind a second. When I said I bought the building, I wasn't just talking about the storefront. I meant the entire block, 4 adjoining properties. All in a neighborhood I knew was about to blow up, thanks to a new luxury apartment complex 2 streets over. While my family was busy laughing at my waitress apron, I was buying the future. And now, I was ready to unveil it. I called it The Table Project, a concept space, a fusion of upscale dining, curated retail, and local art installations. 3 anchor tenants. 1 mission: to redefine what success looks like when you come from people who never saw you. First, I brought in Lucia, a pastry chef I'd met in a tiny back alley cafe in Buenos Aires. The kind of woman who could turn anxiety into almond croissants. She cried when I offered her the space. Second, I gave a lease to Benny, a queer black fashion designer who'd been kicked out of 3 rental spaces because he didn't fit the aesthetic. Now, his brand, Seam, was featured in Vogue last month. And third, I opened my own concept restaurant. Amanda. All caps, no apologies, reservation only, prefix menu. Every dish named after a different insult I'd survived. The amuse-bouche? Just a phase. Carrot foam over roasted cumin-spiced chickpea puree. The entree? Waitress, not wife material. Braised short rib with lavender demi-glace. The dessert? You'll never make it. Black sesame panna cotta with edible gold tears. Opening night sold out in 7 minutes, and not one table was reserved for my parents. But they showed up anyway. Of course they did. They didn't walk in. They loitered, outside, on the sidewalk, looking through the glass like kids at a candy store that didn't carry their name. My hostess recognized them, came over nervously. "There's a couple outside. They say they're your family." I didn't even flinch. "Tell them we're fully booked, and that we don't serve nostalgia." She smiled, walked away, and that was that. Except it wasn't. Because a week later, I got a call from a lawyer. Turns out my parents had decided to sue me for emotional distress, claiming I'd sabotaged the family business and weaponized success to alienate the family unit. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. The best part? They filed it in small claims court, like I was someone they could just slap on the wrist and guilt trip into submission. They didn't understand that I'd been preparing for this moment since the first time they called me ungrateful for not wanting to be a receptionist at their dusty store. So I showed up, dressed in black, with a binder full of receipts. Not just invoices, but screenshots, emails, payment records. A signed contract from them agreeing to my consulting terms. I brought the check they mailed me, framed, just for flair. Jake came too, wearing sunglasses indoors and pretending to take calls on an unplugged AirPod. The judge? He didn't even let it drag. 10 minutes in, he turned to my parents and said, "You're not suing your daughter. You're suing your own resentment. Case dismissed." They left without looking at me. Jake muttered something about cancel culture. I let them go, because some victories don't need confetti. They just need silence. But if you think I was done, you don't know me. See, revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rebalancing. And there was one last piece of unfinished business. My grandmother, the only person in the family who had ever believed in me. She died when I was 19. Left me a small inheritance, just enough to buy my first consulting tools and rent a crappy apartment above a dry cleaner. I never forgot that. So I bought the house she grew up in, restored it, preserved every detail. Turned it into a foundation for young women in food and hospitality who had been told they were just anything. We called it the Second Course Initiative. It opened last spring. My parents were invited to the ribbon cutting. They declined, but Jake showed up. He stood in the back, didn't say much, then handed me a card. Inside was a photo of me, age 16, wearing a paper apron in my first diner job. Written on the back, "Turns out, you were always the main course." I didn't forgive him, not really, but I let him stay for dessert. Because here's the truth. People will spend their whole lives telling you who you are, what you'll amount to, what you'll never become, and if you're not careful, you start to believe them. But not me. I waited. Tables. Served coffee. Got stiffed on tips and told to smile more by men who couldn't even spell gratitude. And I turned every slight, every backhanded compliment, every side eye of pity into fuel. You know what the most dangerous woman is? Not the loud one, not the angry one. It's the one they didn't see coming, the one they dismissed, underestimated, laughed at, until she bought the building they stood in and handed them the final bill, with interest. So go ahead. Call me just a waitress. I dare you.